Morning, friends. How you doing? It's Sunday morning. What time? I don't know. 7? Still chilly out in the mornings. I don't like this. Our weather's been doing this. I know I talk about the weather a lot, but it's been strange here. Winter was very mild, and then it was cold, and we got an early spring, and then it started snowing again. It's been strange. How you guys doing? I've been wanting to make this video for about the last month. I'm finally going to go and do it today. Our Echo 670 giveaway saw with the completed decal. I asked Son of Liberty, who's receiving this saw, if I could do another video on it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the cutting area. We still got that big round there. I'm going to take this saw and I'm going to run it through that log. We got a 24-inch Stihl RS 3/8 50 gauge chain. It's razor sharp. I'm going to take this saw and I'm going to cut a couple of rounds, okay? Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this same bar and chain, I'm going to throw it on my 266, which is ported pretty much the same. And if there's time, I'll run my hot ported 266. I have two that are built to different stages of tune, okay? And then maybe let's throw, if we can make it work, I'm going to throw this bar and chain on the Sachs Dolmar 120 Super. Those are all 66cc saws. Why not throw the 365 in there too? I want to show you guys, I don't have a 65cc Stihl. When I do, we could add that down the road, but I want to show you guys, does brand matter? 2 or 3 of the saws are the same bore and stroke. 34 mil by 50 millimeter bore, okay? So that's the 266s. The 630 Johnster head is a 266 top end. The 266 and this are all the same bore and stroke. Then we have the Sachs Dolmar, which is a 49 millimeter bore and a 35 millimeter stroke. Longer stroke, smaller bore. And then we have the 365 Special, which is a 36 millimeter bore, 48 millimeter stroke. We're not going to make this too scientific, but I'll show you guys. Let's see which one cuts the fastest. I'll try and put times at the bottom, and let's see, does brand matter? This has bigger transfers than the 266s. The 630 Super has a pop-up, higher compression, and more exhaust timing. They all have about the same intake timing. The Sachs Dolmar, I can't even remember what I did to that, friends. I'd have to look in my book. I ported that saw 2 years ago. I've never really run it. Let's see what it does. My 365 is turned up pretty spicy. I built that on the channel going back a ways. So I'm gonna throw all these saws in the truck and I'll go to the cutting area. Let's just do a quick cut off. Let's run all my 65cc saws today of various bores and stroke, and let's see which one's the fastest. I'll tell you what I feel in the cut, and I don't know where this thing's fast, whether it's the torquiest, I'm not sure. Should I make a prediction right now? Okay, I'll do it just for fun. The 365 is probably going to be the fastest out of all of them. It has the best transfer design and the longest stroke. In big wood, it's going to pull harder. In small wood, this will probably be the fastest saw. And then my 266, my 630 Super, the Dolmar, and then the 365. It's hard to say though. The 365 is turned up the hottest. I went kind of silly on that. It's been going for years, and it's good. Okay, folks, well, I guess I'm only bringing one bar. I'll bring my power heads. I got to mix up some fuel and grab my cutting bag, and let's go see what the deal is. I'm actually really excited. I've always wanted to do this, and you know, let's throw all these saws into the same log and cut back to back to back. And again, I will tell you guys what I feel in the cut. Whether they're faster or not, who knows. Honestly, I think all these saws are going to cut very similar, all of them, and that just proves when you port a saw and you make it breathe, it will cut. Stock, none of these things would keep up with any of them ported. I'll tell you guys that right now. Anyhow, I'll see you guys in a few minutes. I'm just going to load up and go on a little drive and go to the cutting area. You guys asked for it, so ask and you shall receive. I pride myself on being a man of service. You guys said, how does that 670 stack up against the 266? Well, let's do it. Let's do it with all my ported 65cc saws, all of them. This isn't going to be very scientific. 24-inch bar, 22-inch piece of cottonwood. Our cottonwood is actually fairly dense up here. It's not the hardest cutting wood, but it's what I have, so let's do it. We'll start with the 670. I'm going to get it all warmed up, and I am going to put the same bar and chain on all these saws. I'm going to make one cut and let the chips fall where they may. I will tune them all up there, okay, for one cut, no problem. I'll tune them all so that they're all cutting about as fast as they can cut, and let's do this. So we'll start with the 670, then we'll do my 266, then we will do a 266 top end on a 630 John thread, which that John thread has a pop-up and more aggressive numbers. We'll see how that one turns out. And then let's do the 120 Sachs Dolmar. I'm going to try and mount that still bar. I'm not sure if I have the right spacer, but we'll give her a go. 120 Sachs Dolmar Super, and then the 365. The 670 and two 266s, 34 millimeter stroke, 50 millimeter bore, okay? So short stroke, larger bore. The Sachs Dolmar has a 35 millimeter stroke and a 49 millimeter bore, so the piston's getting smaller. And the 365 is a 36 millimeter stroke with a 48 millimeter bore. They're all about 66 cc's. So without further ado, the big cutoff. Okay, folks, here's the 670. I've pre-warmed it. Again, we have some knots in there. That's just the way she goes. Next will be the 266. Okay, friends, there's the Echo. Again, when these knots are super hard in this piece, and you could hear it stumbled for just a split second, but it got right back on the pipe. This thing's pretty zippy. I think this is a good balance of speed and torque. It's not the torquiest saw I've ever built, but it's not the most fast saw I've ever built, if that makes sense. I think I achieved what I'm looking for on this. It's just a good starting, easy to tune, fast saw that'll pull. So I'm pretty happy. Whether it's the fastest, slowest, I don't know, but she runs good. I'm going to fire up the 266 and warm it up, and let's make a cut with my trusty ported 266, 1983 model. Okay guys, ported 1983 266. This is fun. I've never done this. Okay, this one definitely has more grunt. It doesn't feel as fast. Again, timing numbers are exactly the same in this versus the Echo. In this scenario, I think this saw might be faster. Is it? I don't know. The Echo oils better than this. I'm just checking my chain. I want to make sure. Yeah, she's nice and sharp. We'll just keep going. They feel totally different to run. The Echo's got better anti-vibe, I'll say that. It's hard to say. We'll have to do the times. I have no idea what I'm feeling. They both pull really well. So I could feel this fighting. It was pulling me out of the cut there. But again, we're not racing. We're just non-science friends. That's what we're doing here. Okay, next is 266 top end on a Johnson Red 630. It has a bigger carb than this. This and the Echo are both small carb saws. There's a bigger carb on the Johnson Red. There's a pop-up and more aggressive timing numbers. Let the chips fall where they may. We have a Johnson Red 630. If you go back in the channel, I built this saw on the channel. This was another turd saw early on in the channel. I had a junk 266 that was just, it was in bad shape. I took the top end off that 266. I put a new piston in it. I can't remember what brand. No idea at this point. I cut a pop-up. I did cylinder machining. This saw factory has a bigger carburetor. That was one thing that Johnson Red's had than over the Huskies in this era. This is a 1989, where that is an 83. They put bigger carbs on the saws as they got newer. This one is turned up slightly hotter than the other two, and it has a 25 thou pop-up on it. So this is the one that we did bearings in last summer on the channel. So we'll see how this one performs. My thoughts are this one's going to be a little bit stronger than the other two, but again, we won't know until we try. Okay. You guys can hear that. This thing's a little rich on the bottom end. Okay, well, that was an interesting test. It feels close to the other two. It's a little zippier and it pulls a little bit harder. I could feel it grunting down. Again, timing numbers on this are very similar to that. This one's turned up a little bit warmer and it has a pop-up. It's got lots of compression. Carburetor's being a little picky on this saw today. Maybe it's time for a carb kit. I don't know. It was a little bit rich. But yeah, I don't know. It feels good to me. More pull in this one. Like I could feel it really pulling the chain through the wood. And that, the higher compression, I reckon, is what's causing that. Okay, next up, Sachs Dolmar 120 Super. 66 cc, 67. It's right in there. It might be a cc bigger than the 266 670. It does have a longer stroke. Again, I've never really run the saw. I might make 2 cuts with this saw just to make sure I got it tuned where it likes to be. The other saws that are mine, I know where they like to be. I can hear it. This one, no idea. It's been pre-warmed. Same barn chain. I actually used 2 of those clips from Bill Block to take up the slack, because this has a small Husqvarna bar mount. And again, this is the saw. I never got to run it because the gas cap exploded. Thank you, Mr. Billy Block. Okay, without further ado, 120 Sachs Dolmar. Will the longer stroke pull harder? Okay, I'm going to make 2 cuts with this, I think, just because... Whatever, if the first one goes good, we'll call it good. Okay, friends. Did you hear that? Whoa! All the way through. Didn't stumble, hesitate. We're pretty much through the knots, but you can see right here, okay? We still cut through those knots, so there's a longer stroke saw. If you have a good ear for saws, this thing doesn't feel as fast, and it's probably not on the tack, but it pulls hard, and it probably outcut the other three. Probably. An easier saw to live with, it just pulls harder. In fact, I would say this thing would probably pull a 28. No problem. So, she's a good saw. I'm super happy with it. I've never run this saw in wood, really. I don't think I ever have. She's a gooder. Let's do one more cut, just because, why not? We're here. Listen for how this thing pulls, okay? Just listen. Here's the chips we're pulling. Okay, that thing's an absolute monster. Next up, we're gonna grab my trusty ported 365. This one is turned up the warmest of all these saws. I built it on the channel. It was the first saw I ever ported on this channel. I've been into it several times. I wanted to push the limits and see how fast I could get a 365 going without losing too much torque. It may not be the torquiest saw, even though it has the longest stroke and the smallest bore. Okay, friends, the last of the 66-ish cc saws. There's a cc or two between all these. It don't really matter. Again, in two strokes, larger displacement's going to pull harder. It's just a fact, but how all these saws come about their displacement is completely different. This has a 36mm stroke and a 48mm bore. This is a pre-X-Torque 365 Special. And again, when I built this, I didn't have money to put into power saws, so why not work with what you got? I built this saw solely as an experiment. This saw moves a lot of air. You'll hear it, it gets on the pipe quickly. This thing's an animal for what it is. I don't know if it's going to outcut that Sachs Dolmar. We'll find out. This thing's zippy, wicked fast throttle response, which means those transfers are really moving air. It's torquey, and it runs. This is the fastest saw out of all of these, I would say, for RPM, what it's capable of. It's got a better carburetor. So let's fire this bad boy up and let's find out what the dealio is with it. Okay, 365 Special. Hot diggity, I love this saw. Again, 65 cc's. This is my power saw. I run this thing all the time. I've been in and out of it, and by feel, I don't know if it's the fastest, but this thing is zippity in the cut. It pulls high RPM, it's torquey, and really it doesn't slow down in the cut unless you got to be bucking 28, 30-inch oak before this thing. Then you go, wait a minute, and then you realize that this thing's only 65 cc's. Grab a spot here. Well, that was a lot of fun. I've been wanting to do that for a while. Yeah, that was fun. To actually run my ported saws back to back to back to back, and which one I like. I like the 365 the best. I've put the most time on it. I've put the most work into porting it and getting it just where I like it. Number two, it's hard to say. This thing's pretty fun to run. It sounds good. It's easy. It's easy to start. It's easy to tune. It idles. It oils like crazy. This wood sucks up the oil. So this is a close second. This thing I like, again, for the same reason as this. This is just a good tuning running power saw. It's a little finicky on the low jet today. I don't know what's up with that. Old trusty 266. Again, friends, if you can't tell, I like them all. They're all different. These two saws couldn't run any different than each other. Again, high compression, pop-up, higher state of tune. Lower compression, no pop-up, lower state of tune. They're both strong. This one's stronger though, it feels stronger. Whether it cuts any faster in this scenario, who knows? The Sachs Dolmar was the biggest surprise. That thing pulls like an absolute freight train. Pretty cool. I'm not even sure what I did to that. I know there's no machining. I think there's just a base gasket delete and my standard go fast moves. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say for sure the 365 is the king for me. Whether it's the fastest, I bet you we're splitting milliseconds in the cut. I really do. They're all fast. We were going through knots at the beginning, which may have thrown the times off. But again, we're doing unscientific science here, so we're just having fun, right? So anyhow, friends, thanks for watching. Take her easy. This is one of the funnest videos I've ever shot. I'm gonna load up the truck with firewood and I'm gonna scurry on home. Later. Don't drop the saw. Son of Liberty, I just about dropped your saw, buddy. Too much fun. Loving making videos for you guys. For me, folks, all those saws, you can't go wrong with this class of saw. They're very common, they're very available, they are easy to port, very forgiving to port, and they are just animals when you do them right. For this size of wood and under, you know, your 20, 24 inch, it's really hard to argue with that size of saw. As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later.